Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Big East Rewind. I'm Chuck Everson, your host from Villanova University, and my partner, as always, the great Dr. Sonny Sparrow. How are you, Sonny?
Chuck, I'm great. Looking forward to this.
Yeah, same. I mean, before we get into this whole thing, how are you doing? Because you must have about 2 feet of snow by you today.
Oh, we got hit pretty good. We got hit
Yeah,
pretty good. I'll
the frozen tundra of Syracuse, New York. I mean, it's got. I can't even imagine how much snow you guys got because we got about 16 inches or so here on Long Island.
Syracuse got pounded. We're a little bit below there, so we don't get that lake effect stuff. We
Yeah,
had, I think, 13 inches, and it looks like it's freezing. It's cold, but we're not going to get much more.
it doesn't get much colder, Sonny. It was like -8 today, I think.
You know, it's
I thought I
frigid.
was living in Syracuse for a minute. I mean, the way it was out here.
Usually you don't get the
Unbelievable.
frigid, temperatures and the snow. You usually get one or the other, but we got them both, man.
All right. Well, you guys had a tough time. You must have had a tough time getting some kids to go to that school with the way the weather. That had to play into people not
Yeah, you
going
got
or
that right,
going,
man.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
you're coming from California. You got Stevie Thompson. How did he come all the way out from LA to the frozen tundra of Syracuse, right?
Yep.
So without any further ado, Sonny, today is going to be a fun day. We have one of the original members of the Big East Conference, in the office staff, and he played an integral part in a bunch of stuff. And I've had a personal relationship with him when we went to Yugoslavia, and we've talked about this on the show several times. When the Big East put the teams together, and they took a couple of guys from each team, they put a team. We went over and played and got our asses kicked in in Yugoslavia, but we had a great time. So that's what was the most important thing. So so today our guest was one, like I said, is one of the original seven in the Big East office. He was instrumental in setting up the Big East Network, Sonny. The Big East
Yeah.
Network, there was no network for any of the other conferences. We were the first, and he was a big part of that. Um, and he did all the creative features for halftime. So all of those creative features that we had on, the video, the music, the parts that they did stories, small stories on guys, all came from this guy. He's now the executive producer of Fields of Vision, and I can't wait to hear the stories that he's going to tell us today. Peter Frechette is with us. How are you, Peter?
I'm good, Chuck. Thanks very much for having me.
Hey, thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it. I know it was short notice and everything, and we got derailed with a little bit with the storm that we had, but I'm glad you're here, and it's good to see you. It's been a long. I don't think I've seen you since we walked out of Zagreb.
I think that's
I think
right.
it's been that long ago. You
The
know.
country's gone, and
Yes.
here we are.
Yes, that's right.
But I'm
The
happy to
country.
be here. I really had nowhere to go. They got 18 inches of snow outside, so I'm
All
fine.
right. So you're buckled down with us for the next 45 minutes to an hour. How's that?
Sure, absolutely. That sounds great.
So you start out, you're at Dartmouth. You go to Dartmouth, right? So how do you get from Dartmouth to the Big East Conference?
Well, I
Take us on
was
that path.
I was shall we say I wasn't the best of conscientious students, and so I had to take some time off. And right in the middle of my senior year, and I just happened to know somebody who knew Dave Gavitt, and he told me, "Oh, you should call this guy Gavitt. Maybe the Big East has an internship." And the Big East was, I think, 2 or 3 years old at the time, and I went down to Providence and I met with Dave and the people that were there, and I got the internship, and that would have been the fall of 1982, and was there for a year, um, or for 6 months. Went back and graduated from college, and was fortunate enough to be asked to come back to the Big East, where I then spent the next 6 or 7 years doing a variety of things.
Wow. That that's pretty cool.
And it
Yeah,
was it
so
was it was one of the things, the amazing things about Dave was that he didn't really care about titles or anything like that. If he had something that he needed done and he thought you could do it, you did it. And so
Well, that's refreshing.
one
That's
thing,
refreshing.
one thing
It
that,
is, right?
well, there was you guys remember the tournament going to the Garden, and this was the year that the first year that the tournament was going to be in the Garden was the year that I was the intern, and Dave called me in and said, we've got this seating chart that the Garden has sent to us, and we don't really like it because Dave loved, as you guys know, the NCAA tournament. And what he loved about the NCAA tournament was that all of the fans from the school sat together. And you had the one Villanova block, you had the Syracuse block, North Carolina block, whatever. And he goes, I really want that for the Big East tournament. And I got this seating chart that the Garden had sent me, and you got 4 guys from Syracuse sitting next to 4 guys from Georgetown, and we need to fix that. Can you do that? And, this is before computers or anything like that. And he handed me a blank map of the Garden, and he handed me a box of colored pencils, and he said, go take care of this for me.
Wow.
And so that was one of my first things that I did was to create the seating chart for the Garden so that everybody was sitting together. And that was really cool. And to have that responsibility as as kind of a college dropout was kind of
Yeah.
nice.
Wow.
So, did you catch any grief?
No, no. And well, I don't know. I mean, I stayed away from when Syracuse and Georgetown guys would sit next to each other in large groups, but I think it worked pretty well, and they're still doing the same thing. And
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
So,
Same
so
thing
like at a
today.
wedding, you can't put Aunt Josephine next to Uncle Ed because,
Right.
right,
20 years ago, Uncle Ed took some money from Aunt Josephine. Nobody told her. And you should know that because the grudge is still there. Like, you had to know a
Tony,
lot
it's
of
it's
stuff though
not
to
it's
do
not
that.
like Uncle Ed told Aunt Josephine that her house is officially closed. He didn't do that. Because
Oh,
God
we're gonna
forbid he
go
did
there.
that, then it
Here we
would be
go,
a
Peter.
then it
We
would
haven't
be a
started the
40-year
show.
feud. It'd be
The
like the
show just
Hatfields and the
started, and we're
McCoys,
already
Sonny.
going into Manly Fieldhouse.
oh my
I'm
God.
just saying.
Killing it.
But
But that stuff that's great. And then that led you into other duties as he got more and more comfortable with you.
yeah, and I mean, when I got hired full time, I was doing communications, and which was, at that time, there were no, like I said, there were no computers. We didn't have computers. We would come in on Sunday mornings and to get the box scores would be faxed to us, and we would take the box scores and we would create the league leaders and all that kind of stuff, and we would fax those out to the newspapers, and that's how the statistics got out for the first 2 or 3 years and that I was there until we started getting computers. And I remember that there was one point when this company came in to make a presentation to the Big East office and to the sports information directors, and they said, "Okay, what we need to do, we will give you a computer that you can use to get all your box scores. We'll automatically update all your stats. We'll get this program, and it will do everything, and then it will send it out to all the newspapers and everything. All we ask is that you do it on this computer." And they said no, because they had their own way of doing things and they didn't think this whole computer thing was going to really catch on. So they didn't do that.
Yeah,
You can't get them all right,
don't
Peter,
trust them
right?
their machines.
Man.
So
Yeah.
I did that for a while. And then I think probably a couple of years after I'd been there, um, I lived in Providence, and I remember coming in on a Thanksgiving weekend, and this was all the games were broadcast and on 3/4 inch videotape. They were recorded, and they would be sent in to the office in case there was any kind of a officiating controversy or whatever. Dave needed to be able to see what had happened. And so we had one machine that played 3/4 inch tapes, and it was just sitting right there in the office. And one Thanksgiving, I came in and it was gone. Somebody had broken into the office and taken the 3/4 inch machine. And Dave said, Dave or Mike Tranghese, I forgot whoever it was, told me, said, all right, we got to replace that. And I said, well, what if we actually replaced it with 2 machines and an editing thing? And then we could actually edit stuff. And they said, well, give me the price on that. And I did. And he said, okay, let's do that. And so that's when I started getting into TV. And we just started doing all the stuff in the office. It was fun.
So no professional training, just hey, give me a crack at it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I did radio in college, but no TV stuff. And yeah, that was that was where it started. And it was a lot of fun. I did do all the halftime features, and it reminded me of when you were mentioning that I did that. I remember there was one that we did with Mark Jackson, and I remember the interview with Mark Jackson. He's in his interview. He said, I think Mike Gorman maybe had done the interview, and he said, well, one day I'm going to have your job, and I'm going to be doing color commentary on TV. It's like,
Lo and behold,
and there he did. Yeah.
there we did. That's right. Well, on those pieces that you did, at the halftime stuff, is that stuff available anywhere for any of our people to check out, like on YouTube or anything like that?
I'm going to say probably not,
Okay.
but I have no idea. That would be a question for either
That
Big
would be
East or
cool because
ESPN.
our guy Daryl, who's he's the brains of this outfit. Believe it or not, Sonny and I are not the brains. Sonny and I are the good looks and the
Yeah,
personalities. That's it.
someone's got to keep up the brand.
That's it. So Daryl is the guy that comes out with on our Facebook page and Instagram and all that stuff. He finds all these clips and puts them together and
It's
throws them
incredible
out
what he
there.
finds.
Yeah, it really is cool. I mean, a lot
It's
of
stuff
games
that's not
from
on the main street, you know?
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of games from when Sonny and I were playing and prior to that and in the 90s and stuff like that. So it's a lot of cool stuff and he had mentioned to me about that, about trying to find some of that stuff, but
I think it's
I'm sure we'll
all,
figure it out.
I have a feeling that it's all in some kind of ESPN satellite office in North Carolina, maybe.
Maybe, right?
There was a guy who started working there after I did, who I think took care of storing that stuff somewhere. I mean, it's all 3/4 inch tape. It takes up a lot of room.
A lot of space, right?
Yeah, those are
And
big. Those are some big cassettes.
yeah, and trying to find a place to play them wouldn't be too easy either.
Yeah,
But it
not
would be,
anymore, right?
yeah, but it
Yeah.
would be cool to dig out some of that stuff.
You'd have to
So
go back to find someone who doesn't believe in their machines, right?
That's right.
that's right. Very good, Sonny. That's it.
Just stay with that line. I'm gonna stay with
Yes,
that.
that was good. That
That's
was
gonna
good.
run through the whole
Run with
show.
that one, son. That's good. So now when you talk about the Big East Network for a minute, how that all came to be, and was that part of the Big Monday thing, or was the Big Monday thing prior to that?
I'm gonna say that the Big Monday thing, I think they were kind of simultaneous.
Okay,
I think that the the initial Big East Network, and again, I might be wrong about this. I think the initial Big East Network did Saturday games, and they would
right.
send them to the low. And that was the reasoning behind it was you have all of these markets, and if at that time college basketball in the Northeast, it had pockets, but it wasn't overly popular. There was, you had certain schools like Syracuse and Georgetown were very popular were in their regions, but like in Boston, BC, nobody cared about Syracuse and Georgetown in Boston. So the idea was, okay, they'll care about BC, so we're just going to put on BC's games. So that's what they did was they broadcast every game so that only the local markets would see their local teams. And Big Monday was more of a introduction to the Big East it's kind of in a broad way, whereas the
Yeah.
Saturday games were just the local teams were on, and they got better ratings, and they got better ratings, so they could charge more for advertising.
Yeah, and that's when things took off too. I mean, we hear the stories about people. We were kidding around earlier in the show about guys coming from California and stuff, and Pearl shows up at the Dome. Next thing you know, Boeheim's out there, and everybody knows who Jim Boeheim is.
Yeah,
And
he talked about it. He was very
because they
clear and blunt.
because everybody would run home after school for Big Monday out west.
Yeah, after school, they would watch the games, and they knew Boeheim because and Pearl generated a lot of interest, at least for Syracuse. And there you go. He became a West Coast phenom, Coach Boeheim.
Yeah, so that's when I think everything started to jump, Pete. I mean, when that happened, things changed, and next thing the Big East takes off, and yeah, as you saw in the 30 for 30 that you rewatched today, then you get Patrick coming in, and you got Pearl, and all of a sudden everybody's at the Garden playing,
Yeah,
instead of playing, at everybody's gym. For the first couple of years, they played it in Providence and you at the Dome one year, and
in
in
Hartford.
Connecticut, Hartford, right?
Yep.
So, Peter, when did you first get that this thing was a meteor that was taken off? What was your first sign that the Big East was literally in flight, in orbit, and just eclipsing, you know, Pac-10 conferences, ACC conferences have been around forever. And
Except in
all
the
of a sudden,
Northeast.
yeah,
Um, for me, uh, I was very clearly biased. I had very little knowledge of college basketball. I had watched the Bird Magic game and Perry Moss at Northeastern, so I was familiar with some stuff, but didn't really know how big it was going to be. But when I started working at the Big East and when I went to that first tournament at the Garden and saw what that was, I think that's where I thought it was going to be something special. And
yeah, funny.
and then all of a sudden my friends who didn't care a lick about it wanted to come and be a part of it. And it's like, okay, everybody wants to be part of this. And I mean, it really just took over New York. And I know that's what it said in the 30 for 30, and maybe I'm a little bit biased, but it was true. That's what everybody was talking about.
Magic of Madison Square Garden. It's legit. It's
Oh yeah,
legit.
I mean, you
You
guys
proved
played
it.
there, you know.
yeah,
Yeah, but it's interesting. Like you said, I'm not a basketball guy. I didn't really follow. I didn't play watch college. And all of a sudden, the electricity, and to me, the Garden is a generator of that, right?
Yeah.
But you got a great product, and all of a sudden, it was literally a perfect storm. And I mean, to me, it's like that's really validation. I mean, Chuck and I, we're going to probably watch basketball. It don't matter. But you know, for you to make that kind of statement, it's pretty cool.
But Big Monday was a big part of it too. And I remember, so like I said, I took a little time away from college and then I went back for my senior spring a year late. And I took a class, the sociology of sport. And the paper that I wrote for that, the final paper that I wrote for that was the effect of television on college basketball. This is 1983. ESPN had started in 79, but I knew at that point, having spent that's 6 months at the Big East, I knew what television was going to mean to college basketball. It was crazy. And I do think that there's some of it's been lost a little bit because there's such a glut now, and the conference thing. I still think it exists a little bit with the Big East, and again, my bias showing through. But there's so much transition that the specialness isn't quite there. There are definitely rivalry games, but the
yeah,
conference stuff isn't the same.
Yeah, and I think you lose a little of the flavor when people are one and done in terms of 1 year with a program and then out.
Yeah.
And every
Oh
year
yeah,
it's a complete replenishment.
for
It's
sure.
very hard. It's very hard as a average fan to follow. The avid fans, I mean, they're following the portal. They want certain guys. they have an opinion on who to bring in, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but that's not the average fan. So when you miss the average fan, you miss a major chunk of the market, I think.
Right. Yeah.
And that's happening. That's going to happen across the board.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think you're ever going to go back to those days, Sonny. I mean,
Right.
I think those days might be done, my friend,
That's why it's
And
fun to come and talk to you guys about those days.
well, yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that's why we
Well, we're
do
still living them, man. It's fun.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah.
I got
Um
together with Sean Cairns and
so
Mike Smicky last night.
oh, did you?
Yeah,
Oh, well, look at that.
it was a
That's an end
blast,
in the
man.
past. Yeah, that's great. So when you got there, you were working with both Changizi and with Dave Gavitt, right?
Yep. Yep.
So give us some stories on those two guys because I know there are millions of stories. We've had Trangizi, Mike was on, as was Danny Gavitt, and we've heard some stuff, but you were there for everything, Peter. I mean, you have to have some good stuff.
Peter, just
Well,
to help you out too, really, this is just between us, okay?
Right.
Just between us.
That's
This
right.
doesn't go past us. Go ahead.
That's all right. I do remember Al McGuire came in to do a game and in Providence, and he was an interesting guy. And he came in to interview Dave, and he brought me in. I don't remember if I picked him up or he just showed up and I was supposed to valet him a little bit. And he called me and he goes, "All right, tell me about Dave. What would you say about Dave? Why is he so special or whatever?" And all I could come up with was the thing about Dave is that he gets you to do what he wants you to do, and he makes you think it's your idea. And that's what he did. And he was brilliant. And he really he had things that he cared about. And if he latched on to something and he wanted to do it, he got it done. And he figured out how to get it done. And the Big East was a result, one of the results of that. Um,
So let
just
me guess. He didn't hear no a lot. Is that true?
what's that?
Did he hear no a lot or he
No,
didn't?
I don't think so. I don't think, and if he did, it didn't last
Just let
very
it go.
long.
Yeah.
It would,
No
it would,
became not yet, right? No, no, no,
That's
not
right.
yet.
not yet. Yeah, it was most definitely. That was it. Um, Mike was a big golfer. I was telling Chuck earlier today, I went to one of Mike's birthday parties. He had a very special restaurant that he liked to go to in Providence. He had all his guys were there, and I was invited to his birthday party there, and had to do something special for Mike. And I reached out to the Dome Ranger, and I got the Dome Ranger's outfit and wore it to Mike's birthday party. So
Wow. He doesn't
um,
give that up easy.
he was well, he knew what was good for him, and so we got that done. I couldn't wear his boots, so I wore a pair of blue chucks that I bought for it, and it was a good time. Um, but Mike was a good guy, is a good guy, and great golfer. Very private person, and but it was fun. The office was just fun. It was very familial situation there. I mean, Dave introduced me to my wife, so I gotta be careful.
Pretty good. That's good. So
Again, this is just between us. We're good.
when so when you were down there for when were you ever down when they had all the big coaches meetings when all the coaches got together? Would you be part of not necessarily in the meetings, but would you be down at the whatever the
Yeah, from the
destination
sounds of it,
was?
maybe you're making a seating chart. Who knows,
Yeah,
right?
wherever the meetings
I
were.
I never went to any coaches meetings. I went to like media day and stuff like that, but I didn't go to the coaches meetings.
Yeah, the though from what we understand that those were volatile at times and sometimes insane,
Yeah.
from all the personalities. Talk to us a little bit, Peter, if you can, about the personalities of the coaches back at that time with Boeheim and Coach Massimino and Louis and PJ and They had all kinds of crazy personalities. Did you
They
have to deal with any of these guys on a one-on-one?
not the guy that I dealt with the most was PJ, um, and just a real good guy. And I will say that there was one Big East tournament when so I had a bunch of my friends from college came down. We There were about 10 of us, and that was when the semifinals were on Saturday afternoon, and we'd gone to the games. I'd worked, they'd gone to the games, and then we met back at the hotel, and we went up to Dave's suite, and he was always so welcoming of my friends, and it was great. And he goes, "Well, what are you guys doing for dinner?" And he said, I don't know. We're a bunch of knuckleheads. We don't know what we're doing." And he goes, "Oh, you should go to Il Vagabundo. It's PJ's place." And I go, "Well, okay." And he gets on the phone and he calls this restaurant to get a reservation for 10 on a Saturday night in New York City. And I hear him on the phone. He goes, "Yes, this is Dave Gavitt from the Big East Conference. I've got some friends of PJ Carlissimo's here, want to come for dinner. And yeah, it's going to be 10 of them. Um, yes, the name is Frechette," because he wanted to put the Italian in there to make sure it worked out okay.
That works.
So
Yeah.
it worked. We went and had dinner there, and we came out. We were leaving and sitting at the bar were PJ and Behan. Just, talking over what had happened during that day and stuff. It was pretty cool. I don't remember what year it was, but it was cool. Um, yeah, I did when Seton Hall went to the Final Four in '89. I did their highlight video at the end of the year. So I spent a lot of time with PJ at that point, and he's just a good guy.
Yeah,
Um,
he still is. I mean,
yeah,
I ran into
absolutely.
him at the final. Actually, I ran into the two of them at the Final Four, PJ and Coach B, at the same time, and I was kind of dumbfounded because both of them came up, and Sonny got a little jealous because Coach Behan gave me a hug, but other than that, it was good. Um, yeah, those guys, and
They're tight. Those two are tight. Yeah.
they are, yeah, they still are.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's great. And
And I did hear a lot of stories about all those guys playing golf. Dave loved to have them out to play golf, and I know he occasionally put guys together to try to work things out on the golf course. But they went to some of them, the ones that were good friends, I think went to Ireland a couple of times and played
right.
and had a very good time.
It's funny that you said that because we talked a little bit about it. Bill Raftery and Coach Mass. Sometimes the pairings worked out, and sometimes it didn't work out. And the two that come to mind obviously have to do with Coach Massimino, but he got paired with Rath because back then they were both very fiery kind of guys. They both, Raph is not the soft, cuddly guy that he is
He's
today
not
with
your
the
favorite
onions and
grandfather like he
you
is
know,
now.
he was like a maniac when he was coaching, believe me, and had the Lindsey Nelson suits. I know that dates me, you know, but he had the crazy suits, right, Sonny? And
Yes, he did.
so
White plaids when everybody was not
yeah,
wearing plaid.
it was crazy. And so him and Coach Mass got put in a golf cart, and it worked out great. They wound up being great friends for the rest of Coach Mass's life. Bill was there at the end when Coach was in hospice and everything. And then I guess there was a time when Rick Pitino and Coach Mass got put together, and Rick refused to ride in the cart with him. He walked next to the cart. I see you laughing, so I know you know the story. So Rick would not get in the cart with him. So Coach drove the 18 holes and Rick walked. Is that true?
I don't know. It sounds right though.
Yeah, that's right. Because so sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. But again, Sonny and I talk about this all the time with the conference. You know, it was what it did when he did all of these things and he sat everybody at the table at the luncheons, from different teams. And we've talked about this a little bit off and on during the show. And the greatest part about that is we rooted for each other when we weren't playing each other, you know?
Mhm.
So we rooted for Georgetown when they played, North Carolina. We rooted for, Seton Hall when they were in the finals. We rooted for Syracuse when they were playing Indiana. It was all these different things. You wouldn't dare root for them during the season if we're playing each other, and none of us would wear somebody else's colors. But, if they were playing somebody else for a big game or whatever, we wanted the conference to win. Did you find that was part of Dave's personality, is
Oh,
how he brought all of
absolutely.
that together?
Absolutely. It was totally intentional to try to bring that. It's like when we went on the trip together, it was the same thing.
Right.
Is trying to bring guys together from the different schools to get along with each other. And it worked, clearly worked with you guys. I did want to mention, you mentioned the Syracuse Indiana game, and uh, I was actually at that Final Four and went to the semifinals, was the Syracuse
Pete, hold on a
Providence
second.
game.
Pete, hold on. Time out. I didn't mention the Syracuse Indiana game. I never said a word about Syracuse.
Yeah.
You
I don't
and
want to
Chuck
talk
You'll
about
maybe.
find you'll find Pete Sonny gets a little sensitive when it comes to
You and Chuck
certain
might have talked about it.
Syracuse
I
situations.
didn't
Sonny.
mention.
Sonny, I want to talk about the Syracuse Providence game.
That
So
he'll talk about.
the Syracuse Providence game, semifinal. I
Yep.
was I was down there by myself, and I find myself sitting next to Ernie DiGregorio, the great Providence guard,
Great guy. Yep.
and
Yep.
just a classic Providence guy. And we're sitting there, and the Friars are down by about 10, and with about 8 or 9 minutes to go. And Ernie D, who I had never met before, he just looks at me and he goes, "Well, the only way the Friars are getting back in this game is if they start a fight." And within a minute, Marty Conlon took down Derek Coleman. They came up fists up, and the Friars cut it to 2. And I just went, "Oh my God, the guy's a genius."
Yep.
They pulled a Georgetown. That's all.
They went Georgetown on them. Yeah, right. Exactly. That's crazy. But that was a night. That's what it was like, though, Peter. I mean,
Yeah.
the
Oh, for
Big East,
sure.
you had to be ready for anything. I mean,
Yeah.
and it's not
That was
just
par for the
Georgetown.
course. Yeah. That
I
just
mean,
happened. It happened nightly.
it happened all the time. And
Yeah.
listen, if you were afraid of physical play, you were in the wrong conference, man. I mean, because that's you got your ass kicked a lot of times, especially when you're playing inside and everybody's that nobody's letting anybody get to the paint to get a layup. It was not that easy back then, like it is
Nobody's
today.
going through that lane untouched. Let's say that.
No.
Yeah, we call that bumping the cutter, Sonny. Bumping the cutter.
And
But
I think
some guys
Georgetown's,
bumped harder than others, though.
I think John Thompson's philosophy was that, we'll foul as much as we want because they can't call them all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We joked about that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Especially the ref drew the ball up, 5 guys got fouled, including the guy jumping center. So it was tough. It was tough. So now
No, I interrupted. Did you want to say something about the Indiana Syracuse game?
No,
Oh
I
yeah.
wanted to say something about the Syracuse Providence game. It was
Okay,
the
thank you.
same tournament. That
All
was
right.
all I was
Tournament,
getting
Sonny.
at.
I appreciate that because we could talk about Syracuse Providence game all night long. If you
No,
like.
I hated that. I hated that Syracuse Indiana game and don't want to talk about that and the Seton Hall Michigan game.
Right.
We'll talk
Yeah, that
about
was
I
those
tough.
just
alone.
caught I just caught the end of that again the other day. What a phantom call.
Yeah.
What a phantom call. Oh,
Yeah,
that
that's a
was
tough one.
brutal.
We had on Peter, we had on Keith Smart and Howard Trish, and they both never talked about it to each other until they were on Big East Rewind with us.
Oh, wow.
And Trish couldn't figure out how Smart played such a bad first half and came out and played like a different guy. And we found out from the horse's mouth, Peter, that Bobby Knight threatened his whole career. He said, "You'll never play for me
You'll
ever,
never
ever
play for
again if
me
you don't
ever
come out and
again."
play right now." And lo and behold, he wins the game.
It worked.
But he also said that he got open on that cut, right? Sonny, he was telling us about how he got open on that in the corner, and then Howard got there just a split second too late, and by the time he got there, it was already up. But that was one of the all-time great games. Unfortunately for our
Mm.
Orange Men brothers, they didn't come out on the right end of that. But that was one of the great games of all time in the finals.
Oh,
You
for
know,
sure.
I mean, you look at the conference. The first 6 years we've had two national champions, and then then you got PJ's group went and Syracuse went and Providence is in the Final Four and so everybody had to be thrilled with the success rate of the conference because at such a short amount of time they had a lot of success.
Oh, it was crazy. It was crazy how
Listen,
good it
if
was.
things went different in 87 and 89, right? We won 84, 85. You had 87 and 89, and then that 5 year span, 6 year span, we've won four of those.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
That's a pretty big deal.
And
Yeah.
having three in one Final Four.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, 85 was the heyday, I think, for the conference when you say, and it's never been done since. They've never had three teams from the same conference in the Final Four. They almost did it, I think, last year. I think it
They
was,
keep talking about it.
they
Last year
keep
was a
talking
setup.
about it, yeah, but they've never happened in 40 years. So,
Has
It's like
not
Mercury
happened.
Morris. It's like Mercury Morris with the
Yeah,
Dolphins, you
Jim
know?
Kick and those
right,
guys, right?
right. That's right. That's right.
Paul Warfield. Yeah, they're like, yeah,
So, so you mentioned a little while ago about going away with the Big East group. So let's talk
Yeah.
about that for a minute because we were on that trip together. What they do for those of you that don't know, the Big East sometimes selects different players from different teams to form a select team, and you go away to play. Some groups went, again, a couple of groups went to Africa, a couple of groups went to Italy. We went to Yugoslavia, which is now Croatia and Serbia, right? If I got we were there before the war, thank goodness, but
Yeah.
got to play against some great, great players. I mean, Drazen Petrovic amongst others, and it was a phenomenal experience. The Big East went all out, and Pete was our liaison, Sonny. And don't ask me. I want to know how you got this gig, Pete, because
yeah.
you essentially went on vacation for 2 weeks, man.
Listen, at
You
some
you
point,
weren't
Pete,
much older than us. I mean, so when we went there, I was like, this guy is just hanging out. It's pretty great. So
Pete, at some point we're gonna black out Chuck, and he's not gonna be part of this. He's gonna go into the silence room, like on the dating game. You know what I mean? He's gonna go in there, and we're gonna find out what really happened on those trips.
No, it was way above board. It was excellent. They were all very well behaved, especially at the topless beach. Um, they
right.
were they were very well behaved. No, I don't. I again, it's one of those things that, hey, do you want to go on this trip? Sure, why not? And that occasionally happened with different things, different ideas that Dave had. Um,
Is that
that
your first time out of the country?
uh, I think it was my first time in Europe. No,
Okay.
no, because I went to France when I was in college,
Okay.
and learned to speak the language as a
Really?
requirement, or kind
Wow.
of learned. I spoke it much better after I'd had a couple of beers, but um, it was the Yugoslavia trip was interesting, and it was very different than anything I'd ever done before, and these guys, I had no idea who these guys. I mean, I knew the names of these guys, but I didn't know any of them. And they were just good guys, and they got along well with each other. And the coaches were good, and Jerry Alamo took good care of everybody.
Jerry Olamo, yeah. Yeah,
And
that's right.
he was the chief of mission, as I recall. And
Did you
Yep.
did you get a feeling like that? Hey, you went a few years in a row. All of a sudden, like this European basketball is getting serious, like getting better and better. Did you get a sense of that? Did you see that?
I didn't know enough about it to say that,
Okay.
but I wasn't surprised. Dave, I knew
Well,
that
if you
you.
look at the outcome of the games, you could say that because they kicked the crap out of us, Sonny, every time we played them, basically.
As Chuck said, it was a select group of players that went with it was the Big East All-Stars. Eh,
Stretching that a little bit. I'll be the first one to tell you that. Yeah. You- you-
but you guys were all right.
Yeah, I mean, we were okay, but like a lot of guys, in my case, Mass wanted me to get more reps, because I was going into my senior year and it was
Few
a good
people did.
opportunity for me
Yeah.
to play against big competition where I wouldn't have found that on Long Island. So and he wanted to see if I could still play or what's the story because you had Wyatt Maker sitting there, so we were going to be going at each other, who's going to make the starting five or whatever. And it was nice that I had my assistant coach there, Marty Marbach, so he kind of ran the show. So I wound up having a pretty good 2 weeks as far as the basketball part goes. I was pretty happy with that, and then so it helped me in that regard. But I think there was a lot of guys in that type of situation where they were looking to get extra reps, or sometimes they were the better guys on their team. Harold Starks was, and Ricky Burton, and some of the guys that were there, Ronnie Rowan, Harold Jensen. They wanted to get Jensen. He rewarded Jensen for his performance in the '85 team because it was the summer of '85. So he he rewarded Jensen for his performance in that. But overall, I think it was a great experience because we got to you guys, the coaching staff and you guys that ran everything kind of let us be kids a little bit too. So we were able to, we had free time to go into the marketplace and, travel in a foreign country without knowing where the hell we were and being able to get back to the hotel in time for meetings and stuff. It was a great experience. And the guys that, it's funny, Pete, because the guys that were on that team, we have gotten in touch with a bunch of them. Uh, and I speak to probably four or five of them, on a regular basis, sort of. So it was a great experience, and and playing against that competition was great. So, did you how did they set those things up as to where they're going, and did you know any of the behind the scenes stuff on
As far
how?
as going to Yugoslavia,
Yeah, as
or
far as locations and because I know Carnesecca coached when they went to Italy. I guess the year that he coached, they went to Italy and Yugoslavia. So they spent
okay.
like a week in Italy and a week in Yugoslavia, or 1 and 2, something like that. But
I think basically it was, Dave had a tremendous amount of international experience and a lot of international contacts, and Mirko Novosel was the sort of the guru of basketball in Yugoslavia. And I think what probably happened is that Dave said, okay, I'm going to send a team over there, set up a schedule for them and who they can play and stuff like that, so that we didn't really have a lot to do with setting it up. They set it up for us.
yeah,
And we gave them some details as to what we were looking for, but it was mainly them setting up the opponents and getting us to play who they wanted us to play.
yeah. I mean, it was a great idea. Whoever came up with that, I mean, it was really good, and it helped a lot. And
Now, did you
again,
know
it
any of
built the
those guys?
camaraderie. What's
Did you
that?
know any of those guys beforehand? Other
Uh,
than other than playing against them in the
no,
Big East
not
games?
personally, no. And I was glad that Gents came with. So, we were there. We had each other. And I didn't meet anybody till we got to Providence and started working out. And the guy I told you this afternoon, the guy that helped me the most was Ronnie Cycli by getting injured. And I'm not entirely sure he was injured, to be honest with you. You know, uh, so it was one of those things. I tell you, it was a lot of fun. I don't know if you know this story. This was pretty funny. So we're playing one of the games, and the people are in the arena before the bus even gets there. Okay, the place is packed to the rafters, right? So I walk in. I have a headset on. I have my what the hell were they called? The
Walkman.
cassette, the
Hawkman.
Walkmans. Correct. Thank you, Sonny. So I had the Walkman on. I walk in and I look up and I'm like, wow. And I walk into where I think is the locker room and I'm outside in the desert, basically. I walked out of the arena. Okay. So now I'm pounding on the door and I'm embarrassed and I'm like, oh no, the whole place is there. So somebody says something in Yugoslavian and the whole place starts cracking up, right? The entire gym. So without blinking or anything, Pete, I walk up to the guy right? And I point like, to look at something and I flick him in the nose and I wave to the crowd and the place goes bananas, wild, right? So I'm waving all the way into the locker room and I'm laughing. I don't tell anybody what happened. I'm like, it was my bad for walking outside, right? So they introduced the starting lineups and, everybody gets the obligatory clap, and they said from Villanova, number 41, Chuck Everson, and the place went berserk. And I look at Harold Jensen, I go, they love me here in Europe. And then, and he's like, what the hell is this? What happened? Nobody knew but me. But that's how you win people over, I guess. But
Absolutely.
stuff like that happened. And then we got I was telling you this afternoon, we got the big suite. I couldn't even get in the shower because everything's so little. And it was right after we won the championship, and we went down and asked at the front desk, "Hey, look, I can't be in this room and not shower for 2 weeks. It's not going to happen." So they said, "Oh, we got you. Don't worry." And they gave us like the king's suite or the prince's suite or something. We actually ran walkthrough in our living room, and the guys were like, "How the hell did you get this?" I said, "Well, the champs are here. They know who's here." They started laughing. So it was a lot of fun, and it really was a good time, and it was a great experience for everybody that was involved. So talk about some of the other stuff that you've been doing, Pete. I mean, you you were with the Red Sox for a little while, doing stuff with them, right?
I worked at New England Sports Network for most of the 90s and produced Red Sox baseball for um, a very miserable year. It was when baseball went on strike,
Oh
and
yeah.
the season stopped in August, and then they came back and had replacement ball, and we did 30 games with players that you've never heard of, and all that time that I was finding that I really liked telling stories, and so I loved the pregame show. I loved doing features and stuff like that. And I convinced them to let me do a nightly New England sports magazine show. And we did a half hour every night for about 3 years. And my only thing it was we could do stories on anything that would fit in the sports and leisure category of Trivial Pursuit. So we did yo-yo champions and we did a lot of sports stuff, but there was some other weird stuff. And then I only had one feature that they did not let me run. And it was really good. We did a feature on a nude volleyball program in Connecticut.
Huh, they
And
didn't let you run that? I can't believe that.
well, it was the photographer on it was so good. And it was an outdoor um, program, and he would set up the interviews. He would get like kind of behind a bush or a tree so that you could see the person's head, but not all of their body. The leaves were strategically placed or whatever. It was
Sounds
really
like
good.
us in Home Improvement.
It was a little
Right,
risky.
right. Yeah.
Um,
So did you get to know Sean McDonough? Was he doing the voice of the Red Sox about then in the 90s? I thought he was,
I,
no?
I knew him a little bit. He's the best.
He is.
He really is good. But no, I didn't. When I did Red Sox baseball, it was Bob Kurtz, and he ended up going somewhere else. Um, Sean might have been doing the games on Channel 38, which was the over-the-air station. I don't remember exactly, but we didn't get into contact a lot. But he is so good. When I hear his voice on a game, I just go, "Oh, this is gonna." I'm watching him do college football this year. Just really, really solid. So I did that for a while, and then I felt like the um, TV was becoming more like sports radio on TV, just a bunch of talking heads, and I was losing the opportunity to tell stories, and so I went out on my own and started Fields of Vision, and we just do stories on whatever people want us to do stories on. We did a documentary on the Cape Cod Baseball League. Um,
Which, by the way, was
That
one of the best appropriate NCAA sanctioned summer league for college sports, college baseball players.
Oh,
Oh
it's the
yeah,
best. It
There
was the
wasn't a
best.
lot of them.
we
No, there wasn't a lot. You had to play in a sanctioned league.
And it
yeah.
was the and they used wooden
Plansky
bats.
Plansky lives out there, and he talks about it all the time.
A
And
big deal.
yeah, yeah, he goes to the games and everything up there.
No, it's great because it's all they got 8 teams that are all right on Cape Cod, so none of them are more than a little more than an hour apart, so they can easily get around. It used to be when we did it, it was kind of the tail end of when it was still classic, where the guys would come and they would get a summer job
Yeah.
and then play baseball. Now it's much more specialized and it's all baseball, and they're all. I mean, you know the way everything is now. It's
When
all.
I played in the Northeast Baseball League, and it was Syracuse and Cortland. There was an upstate league,
Yep, yeah,
and some of those guys were guys who didn't make Cape Cod teams. A
yeah.
couple at University of Miami, Coastal Carolina. Played with Jeff Wilpon of the famous Wilpon family of the Mets. He was my catcher one season, and it was kind of cool experience. But I never personally experienced the Cape Cod, but it was like that's the big leagues. If you're
Yeah,
playing summer ball, that was the big leagues. I
yeah.
played in the G League for baseball. That was
Our
the
own
pro.
Sonny Sparrow got drafted twice by the same team, Pete.
Did you?
The
But that
Milwaukee
was but
Brewers.
the Cape Cod League was where you wanted to be.
Yeah, for sure.
Hmm.
So that's it. We just do kind of stuff whenever anybody wants to do. It's fun.
And all of this came from your experience, like
With tinkering with three
messing
chord
around with,
fixation.
yeah. That's
Oh yeah,
unbelievable.
totally,
Think about
totally.
that, Peter. That's
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Oh
You
yeah.
should give a
That's where it
TED talk,
started.
man. You're living the you can be whatever you want to be speech,
Yeah,
Yeah.
man.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But speaking, I did have one more Syracuse story for you. Has
Let's
nothing
roll
to
with
do
it.
has nothing to do with basketball, and you might know this guy, Sonny, and maybe you do too, Chuck. But so one of my responsibilities before I got into doing a lot of TV was, the Big East had 15 championships, in multiple sports, and I had to go to, I'd go to golf, I'd go to tennis, I'd go to whatever. And one year the tennis championship was at Syracuse. And this would have been in 83, 84, something like that. And, you know, tennis, Syracuse, outdoors, and I think it was spring,
A little brisk.
who cares? Really?
It's a
Like,
little
why
brisk.
am I here doing media for
There's no dome over the
tennis
top of
tournament?
that
There
stadium.
is there is nobody there. And all of a sudden, this guy shows up and he knows everything, and he starts asking me all these questions, and he's writing all this stuff down. And I think he was from the student newspaper, and just very impressive with his knowledge. And he it was really good. And then I started, it was just that one thing, one contact with him. And then I started doing This Week in the Big East as a TV show. And, it was mainly basketball, but um, if I had something else that was going on, I would use it. And won the Big East Indoor Track Championship was at the Carrier Dome.
Hmm.
And they sent me the tapes because they put it on TV. And they sent me the tapes, and I put in the tape, and there's this guy. And he's doing play-by-play of the track meet. And wouldn't you know, I watched the football game last weekend, and there's that guy, Mike Tirico.
Mike Tirico.
Mike
Yeah.
Tirico, unbelievable. He was so good and so thorough and just such a nice guy.
Such a
Um,
warm, kind-hearted man. He
yeah,
is, legitimately.
yeah,
You see him, you meet him, you think you've known him forever.
yeah. I mean, I remember going to the tournament probably in 87, 88, something like that. And I had, the only time I'd ever see him in person was at that tennis tournament. And he comes right up to me and starts talking to me. And it was, just really good guy. So I wanted to share that because it was very impressive.
So last question, because we're running up against it, Pete. You talked about when you set up the network and everything like that, you had to work with Mike Gorman and Len Berman, right? And those
Yeah.
guys.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Tell us a quick story about those guys, if you could. I mean, we had Len on, and he killed me. I mean, you talk about a ball breaker. Listen, he was on the show for 10 seconds, right, Sonny?
It's
Before
true
Sonny
story.
came in, Sonny's laughing his my
True
hand.
story. We
You
barely
kidding
got
me?
done with the introduction.
Didn't even. I said
I
Syracuse.
think he
You
said,
would have thought I
"For
cursed him
a
out.
graduate of
Huh?
Syracuse," and he was like, "Oh, ho, 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 ho."
Hold it. I told Rafferty this still. He tells me it's Syracuse. I was like,
I was
listen,
like, "Buckle
but for
up.
me, the
It's gonna
guy
be a
was
good
the guy
show."
was the Big East, the voice of the Big East, and he was the guy from Live at Five in New York. So he was on that. I watched that guy every night before dinner. We watched Live at Five at our house. The whole family would watch the news, and Len Berman did the sports. So I rolled with the punches. I thought it was great that he was giving me a hard time. Actually, I had fun with him. But so talk about those two guys if you can, because we've been scurrying. Like there's been certain guys when we do the show, Peter, that just have the moves, man. They're elusive. And one of them is the great Mike Gorman. But we will get our hooks into him soon. But it's been a 5-year challenge. I'll put it that way, right, Sonny?
It has. It has. We've
Well,
we've
I will
tried to
say,
go landline. We've tried everything, man.
Yep.
that I didn't spend a lot of time with Len, but I spent a lot of time with Mike, and he is truly one of the class acts. And I wish I had some dirt on him, but I don't because I
Well,
don't.
we don't have to have dirt. I mean,
But I don't know. I
you
don't
know,
know that anybody does. He's just he
unless
was.
unless we can use it to kind of,
That's funny.
convince him to come along to the
I
Big
wish
East
I had some
Rewind.
dirt on him.
Right.
But he was such a pro, and being here in the Boston area and watching him with the Celtics for the last 30 whatever
Oh, it's great. Well,
years.
listening to him do the games on NESN network. It's great.
He is the best, and just so as humble as anybody you would know. It's not nothing is about him. Everything is about whatever it is that he's doing, and he's great.
Well,
I
we're gonna call TMZ, right, Chuck? And we're gonna get something. We're gonna get some
Something. We got to
stuff.
do something. I don't
Gotta
know.
find something, man.
We've listen. We've got several numbers.
We're
I'll
not
give it
below
to you.
that, by the way, Pete. We're not,
You can hit him up first, Peter.
not beneath
I'll
us.
give it to you. See what we got. So it's funny because we've gotten a few guys that we've chased after for a long time, like Danny Calandrillo. It took a long time to get Danny, and who was it? A couple of others, Sonny. It was a couple of other ones that we Patrick
Remember
Ewing.
Danny? The people
You
wanted
know,
us to talk to Danny for a
everybody. Oh,
while.
John Pannone. It was a lot of guys that Chris Mullen is elusive too. You know, he's um he's been difficult to nail down, but
Gotten quicker in his old age, I think.
yeah, it's unbelievable.
Got a better first step than I remember.
Yep, yep, yep. So, well, anyway, listen, Peter, it's been a pleasure talking with you, man, and reliving some old times and going back to the early years of the Big East Conference, and you were there for it all, and we appreciate you sharing the stories and hanging with us tonight. So, thank you very, very much for coming on the Big East Rewind with us.
Well,
Thanks
thank you
for
guys for
creating.
having me and stoking these memories for me because it's been a long time and really do appreciate what you guys are doing and thank you so much.
Well,
Thanks.
thanks for
Hang out
creating.
for a second. We'll wrap
Thanks
this
for
up and we'll
creating
give you a proper goodbye.
that whole section of the Big East. That would have
Oh,
never happened.
yeah, man. You don't get enough credit for that, Peter. I got to be honest with you. I mean, that was the network and everything that was key to the whole thing. So thank
You
you
were
very
ahead of
much
the
for all of that.
montage in the Rocky movies. That's where you were.
That's right. That's right. You've been listening to and watching the Big East Rewind with Chuck Everson and Sonny Sparrow. Big East Rewind is produced and directed by Nick Chico Chorus, Daryl Gurney, and James Hapt. And you can check us out on the SiriusXM app, on YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. And please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with a friend. Thanks for joining us. You guys have a great night.
You too. Thank you. Thanks, Peter.